Hey guys, my name is Matsumoto, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for that comes from Liam, and it is, I was wondering if Ubisoft is still planning on changing the recoil patterns in Rainbow Six Siege. As a guy who likes to play as Buck often, I feel like it would be a welcome change. I was actually thinking about this the other day because you're absolutely right. Ubisoft was trying out their new predictable recoil patterns on the technical test servers about 5 months ago, but we haven't heard anything since. If I had to take a guess, it's because not only was Ubisoft not really satisfied with it, but the community in general was expressing their concerns over this new system. Because Rainbow Six Siege revolves around the one-shot headshot system, you run the risk where every single weapon turns into a laser beam and those headshots become a lot more frequent. This would also incentivize people to main operators. You're only going to want to play as 1 or 2 characters because you've mastered them. As soon as you start to deviate over to something else that you haven't played all that often, you don't know the recoil as well, and you're going to have a harder time being successful. In a game like Rainbow Six Siege, where it's a good thing to bounce between operators depending on the situation, that of course is something that they're going to want to avoid. Now, one thing I did like about the system, though, is that it added in a lot more depth and variety for all of the operators. As much as I enjoy the recoil system right now, you have to admit that there isn't a lot of variety between all of the operators and the weapons. Pretty much for every single weapon in this game, all you have to do to compensate for the recoil is pull down. Sometimes you have to pull down really hard for someone like Buck, or others you just have to tap fire. But really, at the end of the day, you just pull down. One of the things I loved about the Battlefield franchise, especially with Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, is that you'd have some weapons that would drift up and towards the right. Some would drift up and towards the left. And so this made every single weapon have a bit of uniqueness to it. And so my kind of hope is that if they ever do want to approach or take another look at these predictable recoil, is not to make it exact like it was on the TTS, but have a bit more of this variety. That way, while yes, it adds in a bit more depth, it's not everything turning into a laser beam, but at the same time, it's not like we're doing figure eights or lightning bolts like it was with Mira's weapon, for example. Like, they kind of took it to the extreme. And so in general, I'm assuming that Ubisoft has just put this on the back burner, at least for the time being. They might reevaluate it in the future, but they do need to be careful. I like the idea of having a wider variety of recoil patterns, but as soon as you start to change the recoil of every single weapon in the game, you're changing the game itself. Recoil is a core component, and now operators, or some are going to be better, some are going to be worse, depending on what you change. So they do need to walk a fine line. I don't think they need to go to the extreme like what we had back where everything is exact, but if we do have a bit more variety, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. But of course, we're going to kind of just have to wait and see what they come up with. The next question comes from Sammy, and it is, what about an attacking operator that can deploy traps? I think this will make roamers scared and will make defenders play more on the objective. So for the longest time, I've always wanted to have someone like this on offense. I like the idea of being able to place something down that watches my back. Either it be a motion sensor, it could be something similar to a claymore, it could even be a barricade. I mean, we talked about this in a previous Sunday Mailbox. I like the idea of literally giving someone the ability on offense who can place barricades down. It kind of acts as a proximity alarm that you're going to clearly hear when they break the boards. It breaks that line of sight. Like, that would be the perfect gadget. Like, I really like that conceptually. The thing is, though, is that right now the current meta in Siege is anti-roamer. With Dokkaebi, Jackal, and Lion all in one team, it is a roamer's nightmare. Even if you only have like 1 or 2 of those on your team for offense, it's really difficult for those roamers to do their job effectively. Roaming is a key component of this game. We don't want it to get to the extreme where everyone's roaming around, which it kinda did in the past, but we don't want every single person on the objective. As soon as you do that, you give offense plenty of time to set up. They don't have to clear any rooms, really. They can just, surround the objective and then pick you off one by one. They have the better weapons. They've got the ACOG scopes. Like, they have the gadgets to be able to take care of defenders that are just sitting on the objective. You need those roamers to slow them down. You need those roamers to get a couple of kills and then fall on back. If you don't have that little bit of buffer, it just gives offense like 3 minutes to do whatever they want, and that's something that you want to avoid. The reason why I mention this is that while eventually in the future I would love to have a trap operator on offense or someone that works in that capacity that can watch your back like a barricade, But right now, I don't think it's needed. The meta is really anti-roamer. You add in another one on it, while I don't think you would have 4 anti-roamer operators on your team because you still need a thermite, you still need someone to take care of gadgets, but it might get a bit much too soon. As soon as we get to 50 or 100 operators, then yeah, I think that eventually we will have someone that does that very task, but with the current meta, it might be a bit too much. The next question comes from Daniel, and it is, do you think that Battlegrounds needs more wacky gameplay and skins like Fortnite to be relevant again? Well, first of all, let's be honest with ourselves. PUBG is still doing incredibly well. Millions of people are playing that every single day. It's very popular. They've made a lot of money. Like, PUBG's doing just fine. That said, though, I do think that they could learn a couple of things from Fortnite, but that isn't the wacky gameplay and crazy skins. Like, yeah, skins could be something that they could look into, but I think that PUBG can be its own thing and still compete with Fortnite and be an alternative to it. The 3 things I do think that Fortnite has over PUBG, though, is that, first of all, it's free to play, that's huge, but the gameplay is a lot more fast-paced, there's a lot less running around without any action, and also the game runs buttery smooth. One of my biggest issues with PUBG is that the mid-game is just boring for me. I know that some people are gonna disagree, they feel like it builds the tension towards the late game, but when I'm running around for 20 minutes and I don't see a single person, and then seemingly out of nowhere, just because I wasn't camping in a bush or behind a tree, I get sniped and taken out, that's really frustrating, and to have that happen multiple games back to back, it really doesn't make me want to play anymore. I want to have those engagements, I want to have those moments, that's why I'm playing the game, and while at the end it's awesome, getting to that end point is a slog for me. Fortnite, on the other hand, is a lot smaller map. You don't need to rely on vehicles because it's a lot smaller, and it just seems like the action is a lot more condensed. On top of that, Battlegrounds just simply is not a well-optimized game. Now, I will admit it has been a while since I played, but from what I remember, it was a laggy, stuttery mess, and while you would have those moments where everything seemed to line up and your rounds were registering, those were few and far between. You compare that to Fortnite, it is a night and day difference. The frame rate is buttery smooth, it seems like everything seems to be landing when it should. Of course, there are some problems, but it seems a lot more consistent compared to PUBG. And so with all that being said, I have high hopes for PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. With the addition of the new map that they talked about that is significantly smaller, I think it's like 4x4, like a lot smaller than the maps that they have right now, that should hopefully solve the problem with the maps being way too big and having no action. And if they're also able to optimize said map and improve their netcode, I'll be going back and play it. I really enjoy what they have to offer, but it's those very large glaring issues that have stopped me playing it this last couple of months. And so no, I don't think that Battlegrounds needs to go the silly route. They can do their more realistic gameplay and be successful. Let's be honest, they're still very successful. Like I mentioned at the start, they're doing very, very well. They just now have some competition. They need to buckle down, focus on what they do well, and then they'll probably see even more success than they already have right now. The next question comes from Adam, and it is, one of my largest problems with Siege is there is no way to keep track of your inventory when it comes to drops out of alpha packs. Do you think that they should add an inventory or history system just so you can see what items you received through your alpha packs? Yeah, I will agree with you that the inventory system could use some work. One change that I would love is to have an apply button as soon as you unlock something in Alpha Pack. It's not the worst thing ever, but it is a little bit tedious to unlock something in Alpha Pack, especially if you unlock 50 or something like that. You bought all of them, you unlocked everything, and then you have to remember, what did I unlock? What did I get from all of this? It'd be cool if you're like, hey, that skin's awesome. Apply now, or apply to that weapon. That way you don't have to go to the menu screen, you don't even have to remember what you had, you just did it right then and there. It would also be nice to have a favorite or new section to the charms and all of your skins. It'd be great to be able to favorite some of the charms and have that appear at the very top. And then below that, maybe it's got new charms that you've unlocked with challenges, or you've unlocked them in alpha packs or something along those lines, just to kind of give you an idea, hey, these are my favorites, these are ones that are brand new, maybe I should try them out, and then have everything directly below that. It would also be nice to have the ability to be able to sort sort through all of my cosmetic items. I went into my charm section the other day, and the rarities were jumbled all around. Some legendaries were in the middle. I had rares and epics at the top. You know, uncommons and commons were mixed all in there. It didn't make any sense. It'd be nice if I had a tab where I could sort by their rarity. So legendaries, then epics, you know, and all the way down. Or you could have a tab that would sort them by date received or date earned. That could be another thing that they do. And while I realize that it's got to be a difficult task to create a comprehensive UI that's not only intuitive to the player, but also does everything that it needs to do, like that can't be easy, but I still think with the crazy amount of cosmetic items that they're adding on in with alpha packs, we got the normal cosmetic items, you've got the outbreak packs now, that they could do some things to make some improvements. And I think the ones that you recommend and the stuff that we talked about would be a nice step in the right direction. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Do you think that Ubisoft should take another look at the predictable recoil? Do you think that they should spend their time on other things? Let me know down below in the comment section. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.